Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelly. I hope y'all are doing well today. I am coming to you with what I've read so far in the month of May. So first off, what I finished was Homecoming by Kate Morton. And if you are a lover of historical fiction and dual timelines, you will love Kate Morton. She's a beautiful writer. If you do not like historical fiction, and especially if you do not like dual timelines, you will not like her, because every single one of her books do have a dual timeline. I am totally here for a dual timeline. I love dual timelines. So I really love her a lot. So this book, Homecoming, deals with a woman. She's in her late 30s and she is native from Australia, but she's living and working in London as a journalist, and she is having a really hard time in her life. She's broken up from a long-term boyfriend. They had gone in together to buy a house. It is getting very expensive for her to try to keep up this house, and she is having trouble finding work right now. So she's in a little bit of a rock and a hard place. And then she gets a call that her very beloved grandmother, who raised her, is not doing well in Australia. So she packs it up, goes back home to Australia, and she sees her grandmother, gets back in her old house, beautiful old house with lots of history. And her grandmother starts saying some weird things. Oh, yes. Such a great time to start mowing. Thank you. So, as I was saying, when she goes and sees the grandmother in her out of it state is kind of grumbling about things that went on at the house and in her past, at a different house that she'd been to. And the granddaughter doesn't know anything about that house. So she digs and she finds out that there is a family secret, and it has to do with her grandmother's sister-in-law in 1959 and her children. And it's a big family secret, and it's a very shocking family secret. So that is how the story gets started and develops. She's a journalist, this granddaughter, so she's really digging into things. So that is enjoyable to see how that unfolds. I really love the themes of every family has secrets, and you love those you love even when you don't completely know them. You really focus on the things that are meaningful to you about them. That everyone makes mistakes, even those that you really admire. So I really enjoyed this story. Again, if you like historical fiction, dual timelines, you really need to try Kate Morton out. She's a lot of fun. So I've been fulfilling a lot of the prompts from MontgomerMay, the Ella Montgomery Readathon. I will put the host for that in the description box. There's still plenty of time to join the fun on that. So you guys know Ella Montgomery is my favorite. So I fulfilled the prompt of reading a short story by Ella Montgomery, and I chose the Fillmore Elderberries because I am a germaphobe and make my children drink elderberry syrup every day. Well, funnily enough, this story is about how elderberry bushes can be a pain and hard to get rid of out of a field. There's a young man who has just lost his father. He tries to get work so he can support his dear mother, and he's having trouble getting a job because his father was a lazy good for nothing, and they think that he is going to be the same. So he even goes to his uncle as a last resort, who did not get along with his father, and his uncle says, "No, you're raised by your father. I don't trust you." So he sees this field, he sees this farmer with all the elderberries, and the farmer offers him a very low price if he's able to get rid of all of it. I mean, it is just horrifically hard work, and he works at it and is getting the job done. And people at this time are offering him other better jobs. He says, "No, I made a commitment to this." And it develops his character, and it leads to the positive outcome that we get at the end of the story. It's really hard to describe short stories without spoiling them, but there's themes of hard work, loyalty to family, and just, it was a sweet little story. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it. Read it because we drink elderberry syrup. elderberries are hard to get rid of. I don't think that they are healthy for you or good for you at all unless you make it into a syrup and boil it. So don't eat them raw. Just my little PSA. All right, so I did read the group read for MontgomerMay, and that's Kilmeny of the Orchard. Oh my goodness, I read this probably 20 years ago. I did not remember a lot of it, but the scenes in the orchard were actually very vivid to me, and I remembered them. But this is a sweet love story about a young man who's just graduated college. He's going to go into the family business, but then he decides to briefly step aside from that goal to go help a friend who has had to abandon his teaching position due to illness. And so he's going to go finish off the school year for him. In the process, he's living with a nice couple at their house, and he likes to walk around and enjoy the nature there. And he goes to an orchard and he sees a beautiful young woman who initially is very startled by him, and he comes to find out a little bit of her story, and that she is mute. She has her hearing, she completely can hear, but she cannot speak for whatever reason. We learn a lot about Kilmeny's backstory and some theories why she might possibly not have the ability to speak. So back then, this would have been considered, even more of a problem than it would be now. I think it was considered, people were disrespectful, a lot of times to the disability, and there were thoughts that he couldn't even marry her because people would not accept that for him to have a mute woman as his wife. I loved the sweetness of the story. I love the story in general. There are parts of it for me that are a little over dramatic. It is not my favorite Ella Montgomery adult romance. That would go to The Blue Castle, but it is a sweet story and I enjoyed it. I also read a poem that one of the prompts was to read a poem or story that was referenced in the Ella Montgomery world in some of her books. And so the poem that I chose to read was Bingen on the Rhine by Carol and Elizabeth Norton. And I realized after I read through this a couple of times that I am in fact familiar with this poem. I have read it before to my children in school. I'd forgotten about it. It is a battle poem. It's a poem about dedication, and it's a poem about just loyalty to your cause and through the hardships and the sorrows of the battle. That is my interpretation of the poem. Poetry, as you all should know, is very up to interpretation. So that's what I have read thus far in May, and I am working on Jamaica Inn by Daphne Du Maurier. I'm about 45% done with the book. I'm reading this with Chrissy at Chrissy's Purple Library, and I'm enjoying it. I have a couple of fantasies that I'm going to be starting soon to finish me up for May. It has been a month, guys. I didn't have a regularly scheduled video on Friday just because I was like, let's not add one more thing. It's okay to not meet all of your goals on BookTube. It is okay, guys. My daughter had a recital. She was the Mad Hatter and Alice in Wonderland Friday. My son got his tan belt in martial arts on Saturday. We had a belated 13th birthday party for my daughter Saturday afternoon. Sunday morning on Mother's Day, we had to be at church early for all three of my kids to sing, and I got to spend Mother's Day with my mom because she came in from out of town. She got to watch my kids sing. So busy, but all good blessings in my life. I hope you all are the same, and I hope you read a lot. Bye-bye.